Constitution of India, Part 12, Chapter 2, Borrowing, Articles 292 to 293. Article 292, Borrowing by the Government of India. The executive power of the Union extends to borrowing upon the security of the Consolidated Fund of India, within such limits, if any, as may from time to time be fixed by Parliament by law, and to the giving of guarantees within such limits, if any, as may be so fixed. Article 293, Borrowing by States. Subject to the provisions of this chapter, the executive power of a state extends to borrowing within the territory of India upon the security of the Consolidated Fund of the state, within such limits, if any, as may from time to time be fixed by the legislature of such state by law, and to the giving of guarantees within such limits, if any, as may be so fixed. The Government of India may, subject to such conditions as may be laid down by or under any law made by Parliament, make loans to any state, or so long as any limits fixed under Article 292 are not exceeded, give guarantees in respect of loans raised by any state, and any sums required for the purpose of making such loans shall be charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India. A state may not, without the consent of the Government of India, raise any loan if there is still outstanding any part of the loan which has been made to the state by the Government of India or by its predecessor government, or in respect of which a guarantee has been given by the Government of India or by its predecessor government. A consent under Clause 3 may be granted subject to such conditions, if any, as the Government of India may think fit to impose. Part 12, Chapter 3, Property, Contracts, Rights, Liabilities, Obligations and Suits. Article 294 to 300. Article 294. Succession to property, assets, rights, liabilities and obligations in certain cases. As from the commencement of this Constitution, all property and assets which immediately before such commencements were vested in His Majesty for the purposes of the government of the Dominion of India, and all property and assets which immediately before such commencements were vested in His Majesty for the purposes of the government of each governor's province shall vest respectively in the Union and the corresponding state, and all rights, liabilities and obligations of the government of the Dominion of India and the government of each governor's province, whether arising out of any contract or otherwise, shall be the rights, liabilities and obligations respectively of the government of India and the government of each corresponding state, subject to any adjustment made or to be made by reason of the creation before the commencement of this Constitution of the Dominion of Pakistan or the provinces of West Bengal, East Bengal, West Punjab and East Punjab. Article 295. Succession to property, assets, rights, liabilities and obligations in other cases. As from the commencement of this Constitution, all property and assets which immediately before such commencements were vested in any Indian state corresponding to a state specified in Part B of the first schedule shall vest in the Union, if the purpose for which such property and assets were held immediately before such commencement will thereafter be purposes of the Union relating to any of the matters enumerated in the Union list, and all rights, liabilities and obligations of the government of any Indian state corresponding to a state specified in Part B of the first schedule, whether arising out of any contract or otherwise, shall be the rights, liabilities and obligations of the Government of India, if the purposes for which such rights were acquired for liabilities or obligations were incurred before such commencement will thereafter be purposes of the Government of India relating to any of the matters enumerated in the Union list, subject to any agreement entered into in that behalf by the Government of India with the government of that state. Subject as aforesaid, the government of each state specified in Part B of the first schedule shall, as from the commencement of this Constitution, be the successor of the government of the corresponding Indian state as regards all property and assets and all rights, liabilities, and obligations, whether arising out of any contract or otherwise, other than those referred to in Clause 1. Article 296. Property accruing by escheat or lapse or as bona vacantia. Subject as hereinafter provided, any property in the territory of India, which if this constitution had not come into operation, would have accrued to His Majesty, or as the case may be, to a ruler of an Indian state, by escheat or lapse or as a bona vacantia, for want of a rightful owner, shall, if it is property situate in a state, vest in such state, and shall in any other case vest in the Union. Provided that any property which at the date when it would have so accrued to His Majesty or to the ruler of an Indian state was in the possession or under the control of the Government of India or the Government of a state shall, according as the purposes for which it was then used or held were purposes of the Union or of a state, vest in the Union or in that state. Explanation. In this article, the expressions ruler and Indian state have same meanings as in Article 363. Article 297. Things of value within territorial waters or continental shelf and resources of the exclusive economic zone to vest in the Union. All lands, minerals and other things of value underlying the ocean within the territorial waters or the continental shelf or the exclusive economic zone of India shall vest in the Union and be held for the purposes of the Union. All other resources of the exclusive economic zone of India shall also vest in the Union and be held for the purposes of the Union. The limits of the territorial waters, the continental shelf, the exclusive economic zone, and other maritime zones of India shall be such as may be specified from time to time by or under any law made by Parliament. Article 298. Power to carry on trade, etc. The executive power of the Union and of each state shall extend to the carrying on of any trade or business and to the acquisition, holding and disposal of property and the making of contracts for any purpose, provided that the said executive power of the Union shall, insofar as such trade or business for such purpose is not one with respect to which the Parliament may make laws, be subject in each state to legislation by the state, and the said executive power of each state shall, insofar as such trade or business or such purpose is not one with respect to which the state legislature may make laws, be subject to legislation by Parliament. Article 299. Contracts. All contracts made in the exercise of executive power of the Union or of a state shall be expressed to be made by the President or by the Governor of the state, as the case may be. And all such contracts and all assurances of property made in the exercise of that power shall be executed on behalf of the President or the Governor by such persons and in such manner as he may direct or authorize. Neither the President nor the Governor shall be personally liable in respect of any contract or assurances made or executed for the purposes of this Constitution or for the purposes of any enactment relating to the Government of India heretofore in force, nor shall any person making or executing any such contract or assurance on behalf of any of them be personally liable in respect thereof. Article 300. Suits and proceedings. The Government of India may sue or be sued by the name of the Union of India, and the Government of a state may sue or be sued by the name of the state, and may subject to any provisions which may be made by Act of Parliament or of the legislature of such state, enacted by virtue of powers conferred by this Constitution, sue or be sued in relation to their respective affairs in the like cases as the Dominion of India and the corresponding provinces or corresponding Indian states might have sued or been sued if this Constitution had not been enacted. If at the commencement of this Constitution any legal proceedings are pending to which the Dominion of India is a party, the Union of India shall be deemed to be substituted for the Dominion in those proceedings, and any legal proceedings are pending to which a province or an Indian state is a party, the corresponding state shall be deemed to be substituted for the province or the Indian state in those proceedings. Part 12, Chapter 4, Right to Property, Article 300A. Article 300A. Persons not to be deprived of property save by authority of law. No person shall be deprived of his property save by authority of law.